Welcome on the 7:30 on Label Television. Today, Tuesday, December 12, 2017. Here are the headlines.
Opening today, world leaders and philanthropists are in Paris to try to give new aim to the fight against climate change. The economic capital is a pole of attraction for neighboring countries. Now, Lagos is the mega city that attracts francophones.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. With a GDP higher than Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal and Cameroon combined, the economic capital is a pole of attraction for neighboring countries. Francophone today represent at least one of its 22 million inhabitants, more reported by Georgina Mpiga.
There are Beninese, Cameroonians, Togolese, Senegalese, Chadians, and so many other African countries who are often behind the furnaces of wealthy Nigerians in terms of driving okadas, also known as motorcycles and taxis, or having set up a small business, also known as entrepreneurship. Celestin is a cook in a hotel in Lagos, Nigeria. He has been working in Nigeria for more than 10 years, but his family stayed in the Beninese capital less than 100 kilometers away. He explains to us that he has running water and electricity in Nigeria, although he doesn't have a generator, which is hard to get. But in Lagos, Nigeria, there is work. He is rather well paid compared to that can be found in Benin. It also allows him to support his family back home. Over the 22 million inhabitants of the city, at least 1 million are French-speaking. We were told this by a Western diplomat in Nigeria. We do not notice them because they are discreet, but they are there. It must be said that the Lagos city has something to seduce. Its gross domestic product, in short, GDP, was estimated in 2016 to $136 billion by the World Bank, is higher than that of Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, and Cameroon combined. In 2014, the city of Lagos alone was the continent's 7th largest economy, and the growth is only accelerating. In fact, the economic capital of Nigeria attracts far beyond the country's borders.
Opening today in Paris, the climate summit where the French President Emmanuel Macron, after his African tour, issued a stark warning on the climate change at the summit, where he was telling the world leaders, we are losing the battle against global warming. Details. This is a set of disparate announcements that was to be unveiled on Tuesday, December 12, at the One Planet Summit, the summit on climate organized by France on the occasion of the 2 years of the Paris Agreement. This series of commitments at the international and French level is meant to materialize the mobilization of public and private sectors and actors to finance the fight against global warming. We are not moving fast enough. That's the problem, said President Macron, told the One Planet Summit call to boost the 2015 Paris Climate Accord, which the U.S. President Donald Trump has renounced. He must act all because we will be held to account, Macron told the gathering on an island in River Seine, adding, we cannot say we did not know. Dozens of world leaders and hundreds of ministers, company bosses and environmentalists attending the meeting held 2 years today. Speaking ahead of the summit, Macron said he was hopeful Trump would reconsider his decision to take the U.S. out of the climate pact. I'm not ready to renegotiate, but I'm ready to welcome him if he decides to come back, he told the U.S. broadcaster CBS, adding, I'm pretty sure that my friend President Trump will change his mind in coming months or years. 2 years ago to the date, the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry shared in the shares of champagne in Paris as world power sailed a landmark global climate accord. Returning the French capital Tuesday for a follow-up summit, he cut a bitter and disappointed figure. The United States commitment to fighting climate change, something both Kerry and former President Barack Obama hoped would be a key part of their joint legacy, has reversed in June when Donald Trump announced he would withdraw America from the Paris Pact. The summit aims to focus on how public and private financial institutions can devote more money to fight climate change and how investors can pressure corporate giants to shift toward more eco-friendly strategies. We are all in the same canoe, rich countries and poor, he said. In central Paris, environmental activists kept up the pressure with a demonstration calling for an end to all investment in oil, gas and non-renewable resources. In Kenya, the NSAA said it was aware, but the postponement will be a disappointment to Kenyans who were looking forward to the date. A new date for the event will be announced in the coming days. More details of the speech from the NSAA leaders.
Following extensive internal consultations and engagement with a wide range of national and international interlocutors, the NASA leadership wishes to advise the NASA fraternity and the general public that the swearing in of Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka as President and Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya and the launch of the People's Assembly scheduled for Tuesday, 12th December have been postponed to a later date. We wish to thank the government and the people of Mombasa County who had graciously offered to host the event. Thank you very much, Mombasa. We are aware that this will be a disappointment to the people of Kenya who are eagerly waiting for this occasion. We wish to assure them that our resolve has not changed. Specifically, we wish to reiterate that any national dialogue must have electoral justice on the agenda. We are not interested in sharing illegitimate dictatorial power. We also want to assure Kenyans that we remain fully on course in pursuit of electoral justice. Our resistance of dictatorship is resolute and irreversible. We remind the NASA fraternity to maintain our civic and economic resistance. There are only two options: democracy or self-determination. We shall be announcing the new dates for both the swearing-in ceremony and the launch of the People's Assembly, as well as more vigorous and prolonged resistance in the coming days. End of statement.
The main political party in Gabon, the Gabonese Democratic Party, which held its 11th Congress this Sunday, it was also the time and the occasion to experience a small internal revolution with many departure of ancient members who leave their place to a new, fresh generation of leaders. Evan Bala reports.
The list of departures is eloquent. Some, like the Speaker of the National Assembly, Richard Auguste Onoviet, were beaten during the renewal of the provincial councils. Others were simply replaced after the 11th Congress of the Gabonese Democratic Party, in short PDG, which ended on December 10th. The big boss of the young PDG, the popular and well-known Vivienne Makaya Peya, was replaced by Marius Assomo, while the Secretary General in charge of the Women's Union, Christelle Limbok Iwenga, also gives way to Chantal Mebale. The explanation for this risk-taking is made by Ali Bongo Ondimba himself. He says, we quote, "We must renew ourselves, including our workforce. Open your arms to civil society, young people and women. It is a question of representativeness. The Gabonese Democratic Party must be in the image of the Gabonese society, in phase and not offset." After a few months of acting after the resignation of Faustin Boukoubi, we were waiting for the confirmation as Secretary General of Eric Dodo Bugwenza, 55, Professor of Linguistics at the Omar Bongo University. It is done. His profile as teacher and prolific author who published a dictionary of Gabonism is a symbol of the renewal of the PDG. The reforms will therefore continue in the ruling party. The challenge of changing this very conservative party created in 1967 by late Omar Bongo Ondimba is a risky gamble that Ali Bongo raises by small touches.
A new act of cooperation, the Convention on the Tunisian Open Sky, was signed on Monday, 7 years after the start of negotiation between Tunis and Brussels. But it's also showed the way to paving the way for an increase in traffic and competition in the Tunisian sky. Get more in this report.
The agreement provides that low-cost airlines will serve all airports except that of Tunis Carthage, which remains the preserve of Tunis Air for another 5 years. The negotiations between Tunisia and the European Union started in 2010, resulted in an air services agreement that opens the door to the open sky between Tunisia and the EU member states. The agreement signed on December 11th is expected to result in 800,000 additional passengers over a 5-year period. It could thus generate a 2.7% increase in GDP and increase annual traffic by almost 13%, according to the European Union delegation in Tunis. This future flow of passengers will delight Tunisian tourism operators, but not Tunis Air, which is facing major difficulties, including a restructuring plan in progress. However, the national company has a dim view of the opening of the Tunisian sky. If Salma Eloumi, Minister of Tourism, stresses that this agreement allows to revive tourism and increase the influx of tourists to the destination, Ilyes Minkabi, CEO of Tunis Air, has tried to defend a protectionist position until the end, stating that Tunis Air is not qualified to face the open sky as their prices are aligned with those of the major international companies and they cannot compete with low-cost airlines whose fares are more cheaper. An admission of weakness that says a lot about the situation of this company that some politicians want to privatize. The national airline has, however, ordered 6 Airbus A320s and plans to open 20 new stops to counter the impact of low cost with Europe. Many will retain the effect of the opening of the sky on airfares, but the agreement has a much broader scope. If it leaves limitation on capacity and numbers of flights, provides for tariff deregulation and the establishment of a competitive environment according to the rules of competition. It also establishes approximation of laws, including those related to civil aviation safety and security, air traffic management, consumer protection, and the environment.
We stay in North Africa with always more innovation. The 5th Algerian satellite and the first in telecommunications was launched Sunday from Sichuan in China. Its mission to allow the multiplication of radio and television channels, but also to optimize the signal quality of geolocalization satellites. Evan Balat tells us more.
The first Algerian telecommunications satellite, named Alscomsat-1, and built by the China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation, in short CASC, was launched Sunday afternoon in Sichuan province, China. It will allow the broadcasting of 200 to 300 TV channels and the same number of digital radios, but also the improvement of certain services such as online training, telemedicine, and video conferencing through the dissemination of the internet at a very high level flow throughout the Algerian territory. In addition, Alscomsat-1 will optimize the signal quality of geolocation satellites. For their part, Algerian surveillance services will also benefit from this satellite thanks to the more flexible radio communications that can be done across borders. The army will also be able to operate drones over long distances. 2 command posts were installed to control Alscomsat-1. They will be supervised by engineers from the Algerian Space Agency, in short ASAL, who have been trained in China. These 2 stations will be installed in Bouguezo and Bouchaoui and will be responsible for the activation, monitoring, and control of the satellite. The launch of this satellite is part of the implementation of the National Space Program adopted by the government, whose goal is to strengthen the Algerian capacity in this area by 2020. In total, 5 Algerian satellites are today in orbit around the Earth. Note that launching Alscomsat-1 is also part of the space race between Algeria and Morocco, especially after the launch on the night of 7 to 8 November of the first Moroccan observation satellite, the Mohammed 6A, with a very high definition. A monitoring tool of a great performance that Morocco remains for the moment the only African country to hold.
Our question today is, in an era of a new telecommunication but also of new social media, would you let your kids use Facebook? According to social media, the global networking is facing mixed reaction from the younger generation because the global network has promised that all apps such as Facebook, WhatsApp, and Messenger will need parental approval before used and also block children from sharing nudity, sexual, or violent content very soon. In South Africa, the young woman STEM, that is Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, focuses on developing the technical skills and mindset of young women between 9 and 11th grade to encourage young women. But these measures ensure adequate security for our children. That will be our response and maybe next development. In South Africa also, Nanlam Patti is tending his farm in Johannesburg in South Africa, and he's among a group of farmers in the country who are growing herbs and other crops on the rooftop in urban cities. More in this element.
Nanlam Patti is tending his farm in Johannesburg, South Africa. He is among a group of farmers in the country who are growing herbs and other crops on rooftops in urban cities. He is part of a project run by various organizations that want to make more products available in the inner city and provide jobs for entrepreneurs who want to farm but don't have access to land. Patti grows basil and other herbs at the farm using a hydroponic system on top of the city's Chamber of Mines building. He is able to produce over 100 kilograms of basil in 21 days.
The current system that we're using is called NFT. It's a recycling water system. So I chose this specific system because it is a very efficient system when you're growing vegetative crops that produce a lot of leaf maize, like your basil, your thyme, your rosemary, your mint. So you get a better yield, better quality.
Note that the plants are placed in pipes through which water and nutrients are pumped throughout the day, and also researchers say high food prices can be tackled through hydroponics by making more food available locally instead of depending on produce coming in from farming regions. Note that about 100 buildings have already been identified where similar farms in the city will be set up. The program known as the Urban Agriculture Initiative was started by Wouldn't It Be Cool, in short WIBC, a monitorship and incubation outfit that offers advice and funding to young entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds who have innovative ideas.
So we were looking at concepts about agriculture, and slowly we started playing around with this idea, and hydroponics, the technology really opened up the opportunity to actually say you can do it. It doesn't require a lot of effort, and the technology exists. It's just bringing it into the right space and then creating a sustainable business model to allow those entities to be able to operate.
As land becomes scarce and water supplies dwindle, environmentalists are looking for more sustainable ways to produce food. Patti sells his basil to restaurants like the City Park Cafe, where it's used to prepare various meals and snacks. The young man is working on plans to expand his farm further and employ 2 workers to help as he exploits agribusiness opportunities cropping up in the city.
We end up this edition with a word in sport, where Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang became the top African striker in Bundesliga history this weekend, scoring his 97th league goal in Germany, defeat Dortmund at home against Bremen 1-2. Gauthier Berciano, give us the recap.
It's rap packed to my pulse flat. We keep it real, no false rap. I got 4 cars and they all black. Got 4 bras and they all that. We call that ballin'. Doing this is my call.
The 20-year-old Gabon striker and former African gold ball Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang equalized for his team in the 57th minute. His goal was first awarded to a defender from Bremen against his side, but was re-awarded by the German Football League. Aubameyang exceeds over the Ghanaian Anthony Yeboah, who scored 96 goals with Eintracht Frankfurt and Hamburg. Remember, this young Gabonese has scored 12 times in 13 Bundesliga matches this season. Also, he finished last year at the top of the scoring chart with 31 goals. On the other hand, despite his goals, Borussia Dortmund is currently in a critical situation and has not won a match since September 29th, apart from a cup game against a 3rd division team.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for choosing Label Television to inform you. Please stay tuned for the upcoming news in French. We'll be back tomorrow, same place, same hour, same channel. Good night.